Welcome to a place where betrayal doesn't stay buried and silence is never weakness. Here, marriages don't fall apart slowly. They shatter in seconds. A single message, an emptied bank account, a family that knows more than it admits. Every story you'll hear reveals how trust is weaponized, how love becomes leverage, and how carefully hidden secrets always leave a trail. These are not fairy tales. They are raw, real accounts of financial cruelty, family deception, and partners who thought they were untouchable. You'll witness how quiet patience becomes the most dangerous move, and how every stolen dollar, every calculated lie, and every act of cruelty finds its way back. If you believe karma doesn't need permission and justice doesn't need noise, you're in the right place. The marriage didn't end with a conversation or even an argument. It ended with a text message that appeared before sunrise, short and precise, written with the kind of calm that only comes from long preparation. 3 sentences announced the divorce, instructed no further contact, and promised paperwork soon. There was no apology, no explanation, and no hesitation. Years of shared history were reduced to a notification that could be deleted with one swipe. Before the shock had time to settle, the second alert arrived. The joint bank account, the one built from paychecks, sacrifices, and careful planning, had been emptied completely. Not a dollar remained. Rent money, emergency savings, future plans, all gone in minutes. The cruelty wasn't just financial, it was surgical. Every transfer had been timed perfectly, executed before the message was sent, as if escape had been rehearsed again and again. The silence that followed felt intentional. Calls went unanswered, messages stayed unread. That silence revealed more than any argument ever could. Trust hadn't been broken impulsively, it had been dismantled patiently. The realization cut deep. This wasn't a moment of anger, it was a strategy. Looking back, the signs had been there. Late nights framed as work, sudden privacy around phone calls, defensive reactions to harmless questions about money. Small withdrawals that once seemed insignificant now looked like test runs. What had felt like shared security was actually being hollowed out from the inside. The betrayal carried a deeper sting because it wasn't just about money, it was about control. Leaving someone stranded, powerless, and blindsided wasn't collateral damage, it was the goal. Draining the account ensured fear, confusion, and dependence, or so he believed. But what he didn't understand was that clarity often arrives with loss. Shock turned into focus. Every transaction told a story. Every missing dollar pointed to intent. The coldness of that text message stripped away illusion and revealed the truth hiding beneath the marriage. Loyalty had been replaced by entitlement and love by calculation. The man who thought a text and an empty account meant the end had no idea it was only the beginning. The truth didn't surface all at once. It leaked slowly through details that never added up and connections that felt too deliberate to be coincidence. After the disappearance, questions led not to answers but to walls. Walls built by family members who suddenly became distant, evasive, rehearsed. What had once looked like loyalty now felt like coordination. Phone records revealed frequent calls to relatives at odd hours, conversations that never included shared plans or celebrations. Financial statements pointed to accounts linked to family names that had never been mentioned before. Money hadn't just vanished, it had been passed hand to hand, protected by blood ties and silence. The image of a devoted partner unraveled quickly. There were addresses tied to cousins, leases signed under different names, and payments made for things that never existed in the shared home. A second life wasn't a theory anymore, it was documented. The husband hadn't just planned an exit, he had built an escape network, one quietly supported by the very people who smiled at family dinners and offered warm reassurances. The manipulation ran deeper than money. Conversations replayed differently now. The subtle gaslighting around finances, the way concerns were dismissed as overthinking, the insistence that certain relatives be trusted without question. Those weren't moments of reassurance, they were instructions, conditioning meant to keep curiosity dormant. Legal trails confirmed what instinct already knew. A brother had helped open accounts, an aunt's address had been used to reroute mail, even a parent had signed documents that ensured assets stayed hidden. This wasn't impulsive betrayal, it was a family operation, refined over time and protected by shared interest. The emotional weight hit harder than the financial loss. Betrayal multiplies when it comes from more than one direction. Every lie told by the husband had been echoed, defended, and normalized by people who knew exactly what they were doing. Trust hadn't been broken, it had been exploited. Yet secrecy has a weakness. It depends on everyone staying quiet forever. One crack was enough. Once records were requested and timelines compared, the story collapsed under its own complexity. The double life couldn't survive daylight, especially not when built on forged signatures and stolen money. What was meant to disappear quietly became impossible to hide. The family that helped bury the truth ended up exposing it themselves. Silence became the sharpest response. No accusations were sent, no public scenes made, no desperate pleas offered. While others expected rage or collapse, composure took its place. Every unanswered call and ignored message unsettled him more than shouting ever could. He wanted reaction. He needed chaos to justify what he'd done. None was given. Instead, attention turned inward and forward. Bank statements were reviewed line by line. Dates were matched. Patterns emerged. What once felt like random behavior revealed careful timing. Withdrawals aligned with business trips. Transfers made just before family visits. Paperwork filed during moments of forced distraction. The betrayal wasn't emotional, it was operational. Pain stayed present, but it didn't lead. Restraint did. Legal counsel was consulted quietly. Questions were asked without emotion. Documents were requested without warning. Each step was deliberate, measured, and invisible to him. The silence he mistook for weakness allowed room to think clearly, to move precisely, and to stay ahead of whatever story he planned to sell next. Meanwhile, his confidence grew reckless. Friends were told exaggerated versions of the truth. Family members assumed the plan had worked. That false security became the opening. When people believe they've won, they stop hiding their tracks. Emails surfaced. Old messages were recovered. A paper trail tied his name to decisions he swore were misunderstandings. Accounts he claimed were temporary told a different story under review. Even casual lies began contradicting each other once written statements were required. What hurt most wasn't the money or the deception. It was realizing how easily he underestimated quiet resolve. He believed silence meant surrender. He believed restraint meant fear. He never considered that patience could be intentional. While he grew louder, explanations sloppier, and confidence thinner, the foundation beneath him weakened. Each calm move exposed another crack. Each unanswered provocation gave him more rope to hang himself with. The power shift happened without announcement. One moment he felt untouchable. The next, he was responding to notices he didn't expect, questions he couldn't dodge, and consequences he hadn't planned for. Silence had done its work, and by the time he realized it wasn't absence but strategy, it was already too late. Consequences arrived quietly, disguised as routine letters and formal requests. What once felt untouchable began to shrink under scrutiny. Every dollar taken left a footprint, Every lie created a contradiction, and every act of cruelty demanded justification that no longer held up. The confidence that fueled the betrayal faded fast when facts replaced excuses. Financial records told a story that words never could. Transfers traced back to specific dates, specific locations, and specific people. The money meant to disappear instead mapped out intent. What had been framed as entitlement now read like theft, deliberate and sustained. Institutions don't negotiate with charm, and they don't ignore patterns. Reputation unraveled next. Employers asked questions after notices arrived. Colleagues began to distance themselves. The carefully maintained image of reliability cracked once legal language entered the conversation. Gossip didn't need encouragement. Public filings spoke loudly enough. Friends who once defended him grew silent when timelines stopped matching the stories they'd been told. Family felt the impact even harder. The relatives who helped hide assets were forced to explain their involvement. Some denied everything. Others blamed misunderstanding. One tried to disappear completely. None of it worked. Legal pressure has a way of clarifying memory. Cooperation followed when self-preservation outweighed loyalty. The same family that helped build the deception became the reason it collapsed. Freedom narrowed with each step. Accounts were frozen. Travel plans were questioned. Court appearances replaced social gatherings. The arrogance that once fueled bold decisions now looked like recklessness. Every attempt to shift blame only exposed another inconsistency. The emotional reckoning hit last. Watching control slip away revealed fear where confidence used to live. Anger surfaced when charm failed. The realization settled in slowly. This wasn't a misunderstanding that could be smoothed over. This was accountability, layered and unavoidable. What hurt him most wasn't the financial loss. It was being seen clearly, stripped of narrative, reduced to evidence. The legacy he thought he was protecting became stained by public record, whispered warnings, and a reputation that would follow him far longer than any court order. Justice didn't arrive with celebration or noise. It arrived methodically, one consequence at a time, closing every exit that betrayal once promised. Nothing stolen stayed buried, and nothing hidden stayed hidden. If this story kept you listening, it's because the truth has a way of pulling us in. Betrayal doesn't always announce itself, but consequences always arrive. These stories exist to remind you that silence can be strategic, patience can be powerful, and accountability is inevitable. If you want more stories where hidden lives are exposed, family loyalty is tested, and justice lands exactly where it hurts most, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps bring more real, unforgettable stories to light. Until the next truth is revealed, stay aware, stay strong, and remember, nothing stolen stays hidden forever.